Today I am going to discuss about the Egyptian civilization, that is your chapter 3. Already the video has been sent to you, but now I am going to discuss with you so that you can see the video and understand the chapter. So here it starts. The Egyptian civilization emerged in the Nile Valley in the northeastern Africa. So if you look to the map, it was in the northeastern part of Africa, where this is a strip of line. Okay, you can see the land between the desert. This is the Sahara and this is the Red Sea on the eastern side, and the west side is your Africa. In between is the land, okay, and where the river Nile play a very important role. When this Nile over flooded both the side, and when it goes back, so both the area got flooded with the mud and the soil which was left behind makes the area very fertile, which made the Egyptian a very fertile area for the agriculture. This is what given here in the first introduction of your chapter. You just see the Nile Valley, which is a narrow strip of fertile land, which I said right now, is protected on the east by the Red Sea and on the west by the Sahara Desert. The river Nile played an important role in the development of the civilization. So all the civilization, whether Indus or the Mesopotamia or the Egyptian, the rivers play a very important. In the Indus Valley civilization, the river Indus played the important role. In the Mesopotamian, the main river was there, so that Euphrates and the Tigris, that played important role. Here in the Egyptian, the river Nile is the important one. But for the Nile, Egypt would have been a desert. So without the Nile, Egypt would not have flourished. No civilization would have been there, existed. So this is because of the Nile. There, the people existed that time. Every year, the Nile would overflow its bank. So what happened? The river Nile, when there was too much of water, it flooded the area, both the side. And when it goes back, so a layer of silt and the mud was left on both the side of the river bank. So this made the land very fertile, and the agriculture productivity increased, which yielded the rich harvest. Now you can see, it is interesting to note that a flood in the Nile occurred at a time when the land was parked in the month of August. So it happened during the month of August, when it was a time when the mud needed the water, the harvesting for the agriculture production. The Egyptian built canals, so they used that time very nicely, using those water by making canal, dikes and reservoir all along the course of the river, so that they can use this water for agriculture on a large scale. The Nile also served as a national highway for navigation. Navigation means that was used for the water moving from one place to another. They used to go through the river using ship. This enabled the Egyptians to carry on the trade with not only their neighbor but also with other countries of the world. So with the help of the river Nile, they used to move to the other places, to the other world for the trade business. Egypt thus became the land of plenty. So plenty means not only it was good in agriculture but also with the trade. Rightly, therefore, Egypt is called the gift of Nile. The civilization had an undisturbed existence for a very long time, longest among other civilization of the bronze. So it existed for a very long period. That is what it is said here. Egypt also gained from its proximity to the desert. The desert protected Egypt. So I have told you about the Sahara, which protected the Egypt from any invasion. No attack was made by any other kind of people or from the foreign land. The mineral deposit also helped them a lot to make the things for the tools and help their construction work. So this is what the we have come to know about the Egypt. Now you need to know the history of the ancient Egypt is divided into three parts. The first one is Old Kingdom, the second is the Middle Kingdom, and that third is your New Kingdom. We will study later on, and this is the time period they have divided. Now coming to the sources, from where we get the sources about the Egypt. So our information on the Egyptian civilization is based on archaeological excavation. So it means excavation, that means we dig out the area and the things that we are getting from the earth, that is called your excavation. So we are getting the evidences from the earth, inscription and the written work, whatever the things were written down in the form of a clay tablet and other things. So from those things we come to know about the Egyptian civilization, how it appeared. Coming to the social structure, the ancient Egyptian king was called Pharaoh. The name, as we have the name for the Indian king as a Raja, Maharaja, so he was named as, he was known by Pharaoh, the term Pharaoh for the king. He had supreme power and his word was law to the people. So he was a dictator. Whatever was said was a deadline. So that was the word for the people. People used to follow what the king said. He was worshipped as god, and after his death his statue was placed in temple. So as he was as a highest position, so after death his statue was made and placed in the temple in the form of a god. The Egyptian society with the king at its head was divided into four distinct classes. So the social structure, when you come to know about the society, it was in this manner it was divided. The upper class consisted of the royal family. Royal family means the king family, the nobles, high ranking priests, so those people who were working for the king, priest, and high government officials. So all those nobles, officers, they lived a comfort and luxury. So obviously they were in the under the king, so they had a good life after the king. The middle class comprise the merchant, manufacturers, and artisans. So these are the people. So they belong to the middle class. They were the traders, merchants, those who were making the things, art and craft, and the artisans, small trader, businessmen. Third was the farmer and cultivator formed the third class. So this belonged to the third class who were related to the land and agriculture. Lowest in the society order was a slave who were mostly prisoner of war. So during the fight, generally in the ancient period, the war was a very common factor. So in the war, the land, the king who were defeated and the people, so the people were turned into the prisoners, and then these prisoners were used as a slaves. So they were the prisoners of war. Now, regarding the position of women, people in the Egyptian society lived in a large joint family. So they were not like today the nuclear family, small family. So they lived in a joint family, big one. Though the father was the head of the close knit family, women were treated with respect. So we come to know that the women were given a good respect, were highly praised. The right to property was recognized. So that shows that they were, if they needed, they were given the property from their land or ancestral property. They were also equal to men in the eye of law. So there was no bias between the men and women. Equality was there. In the new kingdom, the queen often ruled along with their husband. So when we have seen in the three kingdoms, so under the new kingdom, the women got more important power and position. So they, along with the king, they also had enough power. Queen Nefertiti ruled with her husband Akhenaten. Cleopatra VII was the one of the famous queens. These are the example which we are coming to know, which we know about the position of women. Now coming to the occupation, agriculture was the chief occupation of the people. They formed the largest agriculture community in the ancient world. So as I told you, river played a very important role. So the agriculture was very fine. The highly developed system of irrigation, so they used the canal, dikes and all. So irrigation was a good system in through which they had a proper cultivation. The chief crop that were grown was a wheat, barley, lentils, beans, date, figs, and millet. These are the example that they used to grow. The Egyptian people grow all these kind of things which were grown in the Egyptian land. Egypt became a granary of the world. Granary means a storehouse of the these things. These were available here. The valley of the Nile was called the land of smiling plenty. Why? Because it was a very fertile, people were happy, the things were good. Honey was produced from the nectar of the flowers, flax was grown from the manufacture of linen, papyrus was made from the papyrus plant, it was used for writing as well as to make the rope, sandal and basket. So these things were done, people were engaged in these all work and the production. The Egyptian domesticated animal. Now let us see what type of animal they used to domesticate: cows, sheep, goat, donkeys, camel, birds like doves, and the geese were also domesticated. These animals were very, people were fond of these animals. They used to keep along with them. Other occupations were fishing, carpentry, jewelry making, tool making, pottery, sculpture, glassware, manufacture of perfume, etc. So all these kind of other professions were also there apart from the agriculture. Trade was carried on both land and by sea route. So the land was also there and the sea route and the river was also there. So the navigation was there. Now, what was the area where they exported and imported? Linen, jewelry, and glassware, etc., were exported, while gold, ivory, and copper and other luxury items were imported. So the things were sent out, and some items were brought to the Egypt. Egyptians built boat of different size. So, according to their need, they used to make the boat regarding the requirement. While small boats were used for the transport, the bigger one were used for the trade across the sea. So small boat were used for the smaller area, for from one river to the other side of the bank, but the bigger one was used for the vast navigation, like moving to the other foreign land. So they were using those kind of a big ship. Caravans were used for the trade over the desert, and it was we cannot cover the desert by the ship. So the caravans using the camel was used to cover the desert. The Egyptian used the barter system as a coin had not been invented. So there is no exchange of coin was is as mentioned. So there was a barter system, that means things were exchanged with one another. Coming to the religion, you can see the pictures here. The sun god is there. So religion, the ancient Egyptian worshipped many god and goddesses. The chief god was Ra, the sun god. It is the sun god is named as Ra. He was the giver of the life and warmth. So since we get the heat and the warmth from the sun god, so it is called the river, the giver of life and warmth. Other god and goddesses Anubis, Isis, Osiris, Sebek and Horus were also worshipped. You need to know these important name of the god and goddesses. The Egyptian also worshipped some animals like cock, crocodile, jackal, snake and the hawk. As in our Indian custom, we used to pray to our the animals like cow and other animals. So here also they used to also worship these animals. The names are mentioned here. Every city had its own favorite god. So all the city, different city had a different just making them the prominent for the god. So here also they used to give more importance to one particular god. So the temple of Karnak was dedicated to sun god. The pharaoh was also worshipped as god. As in our country also, in the Gujarat, the people are worshipping more to the Lord Krishna. Then in the south, some are worshipping to Balaji. Some in the western side, as in the Maharashtra, the people worship to Ganesh. So that is what I mean to say, that each city has their own prominent god to worship. Now, mummies. You must be knowing about the mummies. You must have heard, you must have seen several pictures in the television and other thing. The Egyptians believed in life after death. They took great care to preserve the body of the dead. Such bodies, which were embalmed with the resin, etc., and wrapped in a linen for a preservation called mummies. So these bodies were kept very minutely. It was safely kept so that the things, and they believed that there is a life after death. So they used to put some item also along with the bodies. Mummies were placed in coffins and put inside the tomb. So this, you can see the box-like structure in which the body along it was properly covered with the linen cloth, and the certain uh, other things were also applied on it so that it can remain for longer period of time. Clothes, food, jewelry, furniture, etc. were kept in the tomb. So along with the body, these items, food, jewelry, furniture, all those things which the people need in their life was also put in there, because people believe that after the death also they will be in the need of all those things. So it was kept. So for the journey to the next world, the tomb of the pharaoh was called the pyramid, and the king's body was kept in the pyramid, which we have also which we have called them as a pharaoh. Now coming to the art and architecture, the Egyptian built a number of magnificent temples. These temples had a big hall with a number of columns. The ancient temple of Karnak, dedicated to sun god, has 130 columns. So you can see there is a 130 column. It has mentioned the sun god temple, which we have seen. The rock cut temple at Abu Salim stand till today. So still we have all these temples there. We can see through the television or the other kind of a medium. If you want, you can find out. The craftsmen of the ancient Egyptian can be understood from the exquisite painting on the tomb wall. So you can see the picture and the sculpture rock cut. So it is just cut down through the rocks. These are not a painting, these are the cut down on the rock. They have made these statues. So here I mean to say the mountain, the part of the rock is cut down and given this kind of a shape. So these help to to comprehend the life and time of the ancient Egyptians. The Egyptians built a great pyramid, which were royal tombs. So as we have like Taj Mahal and other kind of a monument, Egyptian also used to make a tomb, and that was known as a pyramid. These are the huge structure made of stone, triangular in shape. You must have seen how triangular it goes one after the other. They show great skill in engineering. The Great Pyramid at Giza is the largest and the finest of all. So you must have heard about the Great Pyramid at Giza. It is the biggest one and the finest one. This pyramid was built by Pharaoh Khufu. It is believed that after 1 lakh man, it was over 1 lakh man worked for 20 years. So these are the amount of people and the number of years it took to make the pyramid. Now, another interesting evidence of Egyptian architecture is a sphinx, which is legendary figure which the body of a lion and the head of a man. This kind of a structure you must have seen in the video. Half of the body is of the man and half is of the lion. It is carved out of a single huge block of stone. So that means it was such a big rock mountain which was turned into this kind of a statue. The Great Sphinx at Giza is 240 feet long and 66 feet. This is a feature of that sphinx. It is still a mystery as to why it was made, but several stories have been around. So exactly we don't know what was the reason behind to make half body of a face of a man and a half portion of a lion. We don't have any evidence regarding any story about it, but it is a reality that it is there. The walls of the pyramids and temples were beautifully decorated with painting and pictures of the human being, animal and bird. So they had an interest with these kind of a painting. They used to make it on the wall. Other achievement of the Egyptian, if you see, the Egyptians were the first to make the solar calendar. You need to know that they were the first. They made it and they have declared consisting of 365 days. They were the first to tell. They divide the year into 12 months and 30 days each. The remaining 5 days were set apart from the religious festival. So other 5 days that they have kept aside for the religious purposes and festival. Even today we follow the solar calendar. Solar calendar we mean to follow the sun setting. According to that we count the number of days. They also made the first shadow of clock to measure the time. So that was the time when this is how they used to find out the time. The Egyptian could measure the area of a triangle, and these are the achievements that they have done. They were able to find out the area of a triangle and a rectangle. This knowledge of geometrical form helped them to construct huge pyramid, dams, and dikes. So how they made the cone and the triangular point. So that is what the engineering skill shows. They also developed a decimal system of number. Their knowledge of chemistry was amply demonstrated by the preservation of dead bodies with the chemical. So mummy is one of the example how they kept the body for a longer period of that showed they had a knowledge about the chemistry, the chemical compound. The Egyptian doctors had a great knowledge of medicine. They studied anatomy and practiced surgery and prescribed medicine. So they had the idea of anatomy is a internal organ that they had a knowledge. Anatomy means that. So they had the knowledge about the organ inside our body, and according to that they had an idea about the disease and they used to give the medicine. Prescribe means to give the medicine according to the disease. They knew how to perform surgeries and removal of internal work. So now that we do the operation in the as doctor do that time also they had a knowledge how to cut down and find out and remove the organ or changing whatever the things are required. So they had the knowledge of surgeries. The Egyptians were one of the first to develop writing. So they had the idea of writing. They were the first to write down. The script is known as a hieroglyphic, which means sacred writing. So the script is known as hieroglyphic, which means sacred, means which in the other word we can say the pure writing. It was considered sacred because this was generally used for religious purposes. So that time everywhere it was not used, only for the religious purpose it was written down. So writing was particularly done for that purpose. In the beginning they used pictures, so everything they used to show down along with the picture. Like bird, they used to make a small bird or the leaf or the plant, but now they started writing and they developed a simplified alphabet with 24 consonants without the vowel. Later on they developed slowly into the letters. The Egyptians wrote on stone, wall and clay tablets. So where do they write? Because the paper was not available that time. So they used to write on the stone, wall, clay tablet. Later they wrote on papyrus. Ink was made with the water, thickened with the gum and colored soot, vegetable and mineral dyes. So all these naturally they used to get from the plant. They mix with the water and they used to make the color so that they can write it down. The pointed reed was used as a pen. So the pointed part of a plant papyrus that was also used to make a pen. The Egyptian could calculate the time of a flood on account of their knowledge. So they had the idea when the flood will come, the river Nile, when will it come and make a flood area. So that was generally in the month of August. So they had the idea. So how they calculated it was through astronomy. According to the sunshine and the stars, all they used to have a calculation. Thus, they studied the movement of heavenly bodies and were the first to divide the sky into 12 constellations. As you know, there are 12 constellations, and so they had the knowledge about the constellation in the galaxy and about other heavenly bodies. So rotation, revolution. So they had the idea about it. In conclusion, we may say that Egyptians had attained a very high degree of sophistication. They passed on to the successive civilization on a priceless heritage. So we come to know that they had a good idea, enough idea to survive. Now, what was the reason for the decline of the civilization? The Egyptian empire began to decline after the collapse of the new kingdom. We have seen the three kingdom. So after the new kingdom, now again there was a deterioration, there was a decline of the civilization. However, the civilization continued till the death of the last pharaoh Cleopatra in 30 BC. She was defeated by the Romans, and after that Egypt became a part of the Roman Empire. So this is how the Egyptian civilization came in the clutches of the Roman people after the invasion done by the Roman people, and this was after the new kingdom that it finally finished off. So student, you must have understood the chapter Egyptian civilization. Go through it, read the chapter, find out the objectives, and later on we will discuss the question answered in the next attachment given to you through the campus care. Thank you.